What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another Madden 17 online game. The Oakland Raiders used to be a laughingstock in the NFL, but not anymore. They are the team we are going over today for the 32-team preview series for the upcoming NFL season. The Oakland Raiders, ever since Reggie McKenzie became the GM, have really turned things around. It took a couple of years, but the plan came into fruition last year. They made a run to win the AFC West, to get a first-round bye in the AFC Conference, led by Derek Carr, young quarterback, and that high-flying offense. But you guys know what happened to the Raiders last year. Carr got hurt, out for the season. They ended up not even winning the AFC West because they lost in the last week to the Denver Broncos. And on top of losing to the Broncos with that bad quarterback situation going against that Broncos defense, they still got a playoff berth via wildcard positioning, but they went against the Houston Texans defense. So that might have been the two best defenses in the NFL that they went against those last 2 weeks, with a terrible quarterback situation, and predictably they ended up losing to the Houston Texans in the playoffs. But coming into this season, there are a lot of high expectations around the Oakland Raiders, and rightfully so, especially when you look at the talent that they have on the offensive side of football. Derek Carr just got paid. They said, you are the franchise quarterback, you are going to lead us to greatness, and that's a smart decision. You don't let a young guy like Derek Carr walk away. Carr has slowly been, working into being potentially that franchise quarterback for the Raiders, and he really broke out last year. Great passing the football, really cut down the turnovers. The Raiders in general, as an offense, cut down the turnovers, and that's part of the reason why they were so good. And this offense is positioned to be one of those teams again next year, as long as Derek Carr isn't turning the ball over, to be one of those teams in football that can really play the ball control kind of game. And it's not just Carr. When you look at it, probably the biggest strength of this team is that offensive line. It's one of the best units in the NFL. And keep in mind, when we go through the Raiders, and what I mentioned, Reggie McKenzie, the GM, it wasn't really just the draft that the Raiders hit on. It's more so free agency than anything else that really built this Raiders squad. Looking at their offensive line, that tells the story. Donald Penn has had a career renaissance in Oakland. You got Osmele gotten from the Raiders, and these guys are all on big deals. Not the Raiders, the Ravens, my bad. Rodney Hudson's, they got him from the Chiefs, and Rodney Hudson's been one of the best centers in the NFL for a while. Gabe Jackson, that's the guy they drafted, but Gabe Jackson showed a lot of potential, the last 2 years, it feels like, and they just have, their right tackle position right now, as what I'm looking at, Marshall Newhouse is the projected right tackle in. That's not good. That's not good at all right? I mentioned in the Giants preview, you might as well have like a piece of plank wood instead of Marshall Newhouse, and it would work better. But still, as long as they could get some sort of extra help on that right side of the offensive line, it works. It'll work. It'll still be one of the best offensive line units in the league. The running game, they let Latavius Murray walk away, but that's okay because they have Jalen Richard back there, and Jalen Richard's a good young running back. And on top of that, they have slipping my name, DeAndre Washington. Two good young running backs. But not only did they have those two, that would have been fine enough to run behind that offensive line. They picked up Marshawn Lynch in the offseason. Now Marshawn's up there in age, so to set the ceiling to beast mode Marshawn Lynch days on the Seattle Seahawks would be kind of unfair. But to say Marshawn Lynch can find some running holes, fight for extra yardage, and put up some positive production in that running back rotation, it can be one of the best running back rotations in the NFL behind that offensive line. And just to have Marshawn Lynch, he's going to be home in Oakland. Marshawn's going to be full on, showing out that beast mode personality that don't care about anybody or anything. It's going to be fun to watch. And then that high-flying offense. The receiving core, it's not the biggest names besides, Amari Cooper, but they're big names nonetheless. Because Amari Cooper, you never know when you get out that breakout year. This could be the year that we say, oh my God, it's Amari Cooper's time to shine. Then on top of that, Michael Crabtree, speaking of free agent pickups, Crabtree's been tremendously good for the Raiders once they signed him in free agency. 49ers just kind of gave up on him. They're like, you know what, we don't really like you too much. And that was a bad decision because Crabtree can definitely get it done in the NFL. Now, the rest of the wide receiver spots, that's a little bit up for questioning. The tight end spots, looking pretty good for the Raiders. They got Jared Cook in the offseason, and Jared Cook was pretty good last year for Green Bay. Everyone's waiting for Jared Cook to finally step up and show his talent. He did it in Tennessee. He did it on the Rams. But he showed up with the Packers with a good quarterback. And he's got a good quarterback again. And things are looking good for Jared Cook and just that offense in general. Cook could be one of those like 800-yard catching tight ends, and Walford as well as a number 2, not too bad. They got Lee Smith, the blocking tight end. The other wide receiver spots, they got like Seth Roberts and Cordell Patterson and a couple other guys gonna be battling for those spots. Not the best group of guys. It's not the deepest wide receiving core like we went over with the Atlanta Falcons, but still that offense in general, like I said, especially with the way they can control time of possession with that offensive line in the running game. Definitely good for them because, I mean, they don't have the best defense out there, but it's not the worst defense at the same time. And this defense, a lot of these guys, their pickups in free agency, when you look at Sean Smith, when you look at David Amerson, Reggie Nelson, all of these guys in the secondary picked up via free agency, and all of them quality starters. And they also got a couple of new guys coming in to hopefully contribute for this secondary, like Carl Joseph, who's going to be entering his second year. Joseph showed some potential to really be a solid safety in the NFL for years to come. This year in the draft, they drafted another safety, Obi. We're just going to call him Obi because I don't know what the hell. The last name, the dude out of Kentucky. He drafted in the second round. Hopefully, he'll be a successor once Reggie Nelson, eventually ages and has to step down. And in the first round, they drafted Gary and Connolly out of Ohio State. And that could be a big-time pickup for them. So this is a deep secondary. And it wasn't the worst secondary last year. It was kind of an average secondary. They didn't get, there were plays where they definitely got torched. They had their up-and-down games, so just put it that way. So to get new guys in that secondary can hopefully add more stability. And that's the biggest thing the Raiders need on defense is stability. Because, do they have a Super Bowl winning secondary? I don't really know right now because it's like the Atlanta Falcons. It's like, oh my, they don't have the best defense, but their offense is so good that they could bail them out. And that's kind of what the Raiders are in position to do right now. Have a defense that's good enough to where they can hold on while the offense bails them out and just hide fine and putting up points. But they definitely got names on that defensive side of football. They have a lot of good pass rushers, but they didn't put up a lot of sacks last year. They got Khalil Mack. They had Bruce Irvin. And, you'd think that would be good enough to get it done, but really just the lack of other guys rushing the passer really did the Raiders in last year. Mario Edwards Jr. was hurt a lot of last year, so he wasn't really around too much. The second-round pick they had, Jod Ward, I think his name is, and then their third-round pick, Calhoun. Neither of those guys really contributed, and that kind of hurt the Raiders' pass rush, so we'll see what happens in the second year because they definitely got a lot of guys that are coming back for this defensive line that can help not only try to rush the passer, but hopefully get some stops in the run. They also drafted a defensive tackle, Vanderdoes. I'm not good at these names. I've never heard them before. I'm just reading them as I see them. So if I'm getting them wrong, I apologize. But Eddie Vanderdoes, I believe his name is, the guy at UCLA, third-round pick, defensive tackle. Hopefully he does something. Speaking of tackles, offensive tackle David Sharp drafted in the 4th round. Maybe he's better than Newhouse already. Who knows? But, definitely look at the Raiders draft class. It's not like they drafted bad. I mentioned a lot of teams built in free agency, but they've definitely been drafting good lately. Mainly the 2014 draft when you look at. That was the draft that changed this franchise. They got their franchise defensive player in Khalil Mack. And you guys know Khalil Mack is pretty much a superstar on defense at this point of his career. And then Derek Carr in the 2nd round. They got Khalil Mack 1st round, Derek Carr 2nd round, Gabe Jackson 3rd round, offensive lineman. And on top of that, they got Justin Ellis, who he's been contributing. He's not too big of a name. But they got TJ Carey back there as well in the, 7th round. And he's been pretty decent as a slot corner for them. So, that's pretty big. Next draft, they got Cooper and Mario Edwards. Draft after that, it's still TBD to see what they got, but they did get Carl Joseph. DeAndre Washington showed some flashes. We'll see how the defensive linemen do. Connor Cook didn't. Connor Cook kind of got thrown in the fire, so we can't really say anything too bad about him, but kind of like the Paxton Lynch situation. Like, these guys aren't meant to start, or anybody on the New York Jets that's a quarterback, I guess, even though none of them look good. Like, guys that aren't meant to start in the rookie season but end up getting thrown in there anyway, they just get thrown in the fire. So it's hard to say what is to be seen with Connor Cook, but it's okay because he gets to play behind Derek Carr. But the one main concern about this Raiders roster, when you look at it, is their linebacking core. Or middle linebacking core, I should mainly say. I guess, you could say Khalil Mack and Bruce Irvin are outside linebackers, but middle linebackers, a really weird position for them because no one really knows who's starting. I don't know who's starting for them. At least right now it's like Corey James. They got Henny, whatever his name is. It's a bunch of random guys, kind of like the New York Giants. Really don't know who's starting at the linebacking core. But since, I've seen the Giants excel without linebackers, I guess I'm not too concerned about it, but a little bit concerned about it because that leads to the fact that the Raiders didn't have a good rushing defense last year, and not having those linebackers to plug up the gaps, that could hurt a little bit, and we'll see how that affects the Raiders. But you know, despite that, I think the Raiders are in position to do really well this year. I think, you know, they can, I mean, the thing about the AFC West is any of those 4 teams can win the division. When you look at San Diego, they have things fall right. Yeah, they could win it. Denver, they have an elite defense. They can win it if they can control the ball. The Chiefs, they won it last year. And, you know, like we mentioned their preview, they're a smart football team. They control the ball. They have an elite defense. And the Raiders, they can definitely win it as well. I think the Raiders will win the division. I think the Raiders can have an 11-5 kind of season to win the division and compete for a bye week in the AFC conference like they did last year. I think they could do that once again this year. We'll see what happens though. A lot of, you know, the NFL, like, it's a lot of unpredictable things, like I mentioned before, division games, division rivalry games. You never know what can really happen in those games, and it can really swing the look of a division. Like last year, it really swung the AFC West, and that's why the Kansas City Chiefs won. They took care of their division. So if the Raiders can take care of the division, they can win it. I think they will, but the AFC West is wide open. But that's my Raiders predictions. That's my preview for them. I think that they take the AFC West this year, but just looking forward to those division games. There's a lot of good football teams in there. We'll see what happens. Look at this freaking Ripkowski, dog. This thing had me pissed off. How did this guy get this pass off? I don't know. But leave a like in the video if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe for more videos, for more previews. Raiders Nation, let me know what you guys think about your team. If you guys think you guys can make the playoffs and even make some noise in the playoffs this season. And I'll catch you guys next time.